it came out on Friday that because of financial pressure from FedEx, who has their name on the Redskins stadium, from Nike after Nike pulled all of the Washington gear from their website, that the Redskins and Dan Snyder, their owner, are finally going to review the name Redskins and consider a change. And then a few hours later, the Cleveland Indians put out a statement saying, because of all the awareness that's going on, we have recognized and looked at our name that it maybe could be changed. So they are also investigating and thinking about changing their name as well, which means we have two franchises, one in football, one in baseball, that undergo a name change. And this is important. A new name has to be good. Can't have a new name that's going to sound like an XFL name. Can't have a new name that's going to sound like a AAA baseball team. Because guess what? You're not having success if you sound like a AAA team or you sound like an XFL team. I'm sorry. Look good, play good is kind of a feeling that I have, or a major belief that I do have. And with that, you need a name that fits, that is tough, that sounds good, sounds intimidating, that I think will get a lot. You need some buy-in from the fans here. The Redskins especially. Their fan base is borderline apathetic at this part, not just because of the name, because their play has been awful. You need to rejuvenate the fan base. You need to get them excited, get them pumped up again, and get them back in the stadium. 3 names for the Redskins, 3 names for the Indians that they should legitimately consider. I think the fans would really gravitate to and like. That I think would go over well and be able to even right or wrong in some cases. So let's go. We'll start with the Redskins first. This is almost a two-parter. I'll go either or here. Either the Washington Natives or the Washington Americans. It's a way to right or wrong. As you know, the Native American community has been very upset about the Native Redskins, have wanted to change for a while. So not only changing it is a good thing, you can right or wrong. You can honor Native Americans instead of using them as a mascot. Use them as a symbol. Use them to, again, honor their way of life. And again, have a chance to, instead of using them for the wrong way for a while, change that and reverse that. So natives is one. Americans also is another one that I like more because you look at the other teams in the D.C. area, the Nationals, the Capitals, both have nicknames that reflect being the capital of the United States. Americans, I think, would be perfect. The Washington Americans sounds good. Doesn't sound like an XFL team. Doesn't sound very minor league. So number 3, I would do either the Natives or Americans. Number 2, the Redtails. I think it's a very cool name, very catchy name. The Washington Redtails sounds good. Nickname for the Tuskegee Airmen, which is, if you don't know, the first black aerial combat unit that broke the World War II color barrier. Again, another opportunity similar to the Natives and the Americans to right or wrong. Bring some honor, bring some attention, and bring some praise to those groups who deserve it. The Redtails is a cool name. I think it's catchy. You can keep the HTTR slogan, Hail to the Redskins, Hail to the Redtails. So a lot of the marketing does have to change. Very subtle. And you can also keep the color scheme as well and just make a slight adjustment to the name without being able to keep most of the other traditions, color schemes, logos outside of the Native American man himself as being the main logo on the field. Change everything else is good to go. So Americans / Natives at 3, Redtails at 2. Number 1. This is honestly my favorite, and it's a long shot. Admittedly, don't get me wrong, but I love it, and I think the fans would embrace this the most. The Hogs, the Washington Hogs, as a great way to honor history of the Hogs, which is the great offensive line that the Redskins had in the 80s and early 90s. That was the glory days of that franchise. They went to 4 Super Bowls and won 3. So the Hogs are super popular. You have people wearing pig noses, signs, and this is really the only time I think in NFL history where an offensive line was so revered, so popular. I think if you go back to it, the fans would love that. Think about it. We talked about uniform reveals a few weeks ago, right? And at least for me, I think a lot of the positive social media reaction as well was for teams like the Browns, like the Buccaneers, like the Chargers to an extent, who went back to their roots, who went back to old school uniforms, went back and basically went to the original uniforms. Fans love retro. Fans love going back and remembering whether it's uniforms, whether it's highlights of times when the team was good. No better way to remember the glory days when you won 3 Super Bowls, when you dominated the 80s and early 90s, and then being called the Hogs, the Washington Hogs. It sounds tough, too. Like, oh, we got the Hogs this week. Not a rollover. Not the Generals. Oh, the Washington Generals. Okay, yeah, we'll smoke them. The Hogs. It sounds gritty. It sounds tough. You honor the teams that went to the Super Bowl. You bring back the glory days, and in doing so, you hope that maybe the team name will help this current team get back to the winning way. Not to mention, I really do think that the fan base will gravitate to it. Like I said, if you can bring fans back to the glory days, if you can educate younger fans about when the Redskins were actually good, because fans that are 30 and under, even 35 and under, have zero clue the Redskins were ever good. Or if they do know, they don't know the true history. No better way to revisit history, bring back some good memories, than by just going back and adopting the name that was popular when you were really good. So natives or Americans at number 3, Redtails number 2, Hogs at number 1. What is your team name for the Redskins? Let's hear it either on Facebook, Twitter, however you want to reach out. I'd love to hear your name. What should the Redskins change their name to? For the Indians, it's a little tougher, but I think there's 3 good ones here that you can reflect on the name of the city, reflect on the history of Cleveland, and do so in a positive way. Number 3, the Foresters. No joke, the Foresters. The Cleveland Foresters. One nickname for the city is the Forest City. Cleveland is known as the Forest City. So why not be called the Foresters? I think it sounds cool. Cleveland Foresters. Sounds tough. We have other names that, reflect the city's nicknames or what it represents. The New York Mets, short for Metropolitans. The Foresters. Sounds like lumberjacks, lumbermen. Maybe that could be the new mascot. There's a lumberjack with, a chainsaw cutting down a tree. Foresters at 3. Number 2, I would double dip here into hockey. I would take the Flyers. Ohio. Now, this is some controversy. This is true. Not North Carolina. Ohio. Officially the birthplace of aviation. Home to Wilbur, and Orville Wright. Not to mention, this is crazy too. Ohio is home to 24 astronauts, or birthplace, I should say, of 24 astronauts, including Neil Armstrong. A lot of flying going on, a lot of visits to the moon going on. The Rockets, I think, if they were in Florida where NASA is headquartered, I would say, okay. Flyers. A lot of flying going on, a lot of legends to aviation born or reside in Ohio. Foresters 3, Flyers 2. Number 1, I do like this. I think it has a great ring. The Cleveland Rockers. Sounds great to me. Obviously, it's a nod to having the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. Probably the biggest thing they're known for. The Rockers sounds tough. Oh, we got the Rockers today. Give me a tough series going to Cleveland to play the Rockers. The Cleveland Rockers, it just has something where it's not the Rocks. I've seen the name Rocks thrown around, the Cleveland Rocks. You kick rocks. You throw rocks in the bottom of the ocean. No one likes rocks. Rockers, all of a sudden now we're talking. We're talking. You could play, we will rock you. I mean, that has to be the theme song. Anytime a big spot comes up, the Indians threatening in the 8th inning, just blare that in between every pitch. I think the crowd would go crazy, get electric. Have a guitar maybe as part of the logo. The Cleveland Rockers, I think, would be awesome. I think the fans will gravitate to it. Because that's the other thing, too. You need buy-in. If you had just a name that is okay, not great, tough to bring in fans. Same thing with the uniform reveal. The Rams uniforms were a disaster. You're not bringing in more football fans when you have uniforms that look like that. It's awful. The Falcons aren't getting their fan base jacked up after some disappointing seasons because they roll these ugly, ugly uniforms. It's the small things that get fans jacked up. A name. You want to name that sound that rolls off the tongue. That sounds good. That sounds tough. That sounds like, this is going to be a tough night. Welcome to Cleveland, home of the Rockers. We're going to Washington. We're playing the Hogs. Well, you know what they say. Never easy when you're playing the Hogs. It's always a grind fest when you're playing the Rockers. So, Rockers for Cleveland for baseball, Hogs for Washington for football. To me, that is the name for each. I think would be perfect. Would get the fan base going. It sounds tough. It rolls off the tongue. It pays homage to the city and the history. That's what my thoughts at least.